Hello, and thanks for joining the Walt Weekly. We have a great show on tap for y'all guys today. And I think y'all guys are going to love it. So with that said, I want to say hello to my co-host who's out there busy doing his thing. He's military. And we have a special guest for y'all guys today that will dovetail well with what's going on in the world. And we'll see. All right. And his name is Derrick Jackson. He's an author, and we want to welcome Mr. Derrick Jackson. How are you, Derrick?
I'm doing well, Walt. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to meet both of you.
Yeah, you're like my hero, man, from my spy novels. But anyway, let me just give a little, I don't want to talk too much, but anyway, Derrick Jackson, he joined the U.S. Air Force and served as a jet engine specialist on the F-15 Eagle, the C-5 Galaxy, and the C-141 Strato Fortress, and the C-17 Globemaster. After 10 years of service, he was recruited to become a special agent, secret agent, man. But anyway, Office of Special Investigations in the Air Force. His first assignments were as a criminal investigator at Tyndall Air Force Base and OSI Air Force Base in the Republic of Korea. So with that said, before going to you, Derrick, Ernest, welcome back, man.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's good to be back. It's a lot that's happening in this world. Appreciate you for your service also as well.
Thank you. I appreciate yours.
Yeah. Definitely want to talk about some of that stuff, like when you got out, stuff like that. But I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm going to turn it over. And Derrick, can you tell us? I know you're an author. You got one book out that's a bestseller on Amazon, which is one of a trilogy. And the second one is, what is that? Is that published yet, or is that in the process of being published?
It came out 3 weeks ago, so it's out as well as the audiobook.
It's two great books out, people. I'm going to put a link in the show notes so y'all guys can go to Amazon. And I'm quite sure y'all guys will be, satisfied. Or, the excitement anyway. So you get with the boring, long summer days. Derrick, welcome. And thank you for joining the Walt Weekly. And you fill a slot for us that, Ernest was covering because he's a military mind and a governmental institutional guy. And now we got undercover, not undercover, I wouldn't call it undercover. All right. What do you call a special
agent.
Investigator, special agent. Yeah. Like the FBI say, we call him special agent. I'm special agent, blah, blah, blah. I'm special agent Walter Lake. So you're a special agent, Derrick Jackson.
I was until I retired, yes. Special agent.
Okay. Derrick, tell us a little bit about yourself that I didn't mention in it.
Well, one thing that a lot of people wouldn't probably, realize, especially since I wrote 2 books about my experience in the Air Force, is that I never planned to join the Air Force. It was not something I wanted to do until I actually did it. I was a senior in high school, and the only thing I thought about was playing football and running after the pretty girls. And so when football season was over, we were getting, a few months away from graduation, and some of my friends were saying they were going to this college, or they were going to trade school, or they were going to work at this, this company or whatever. And I was standing there looking, thinking, man, I didn't plan like I should have. And I had an uncle at the time who was in the Air Force, and he was a boom operator on KC-135s, did the area refueling. And so his son, my cousin, and I were talking, and he told me, well, I'm going in the Air Force to follow his dad. And I took about 10 seconds and thought about it, and I said, you know what, me too. And that 10-second decision that I made at 17 years old was the best decision I ever made in my whole life.
That was your fork in the road.
That was it.
So, Ernest, do you have any questions before we go into Q&A?
No. I went to school. What high school did you go to?
I went to high school in Alabama. Yeah, I live in Virginia now, but I'm from Alabama, and I settled here after I retired from the Air Force.
Okay, all right. That's what I was trying to get to. Okay, yeah, because I was 17 when I made that choice and decision. So what was that
grass this morning. So
You had a
Yeah.
Did you do a riding lawnmower?
Yeah.
You got that big
Yes, sir.
property?
Well,
Oh,
it's not that
man.
big, but it's hot. Get it out the way.
Can't blame me. All right, so let's get back to it. So Derrick, tell us about yourself. All right, tell our folks, our listeners, about yourself.
Yeah, so right after high school, I joined the U.S. Air Force, enlisted. Initially, I was a jet engine mechanic. My first assignment was at Dover Air Force Base, and God was blessing me and taking care of me because he put me inside the hangar and not outside working on the airplane. That was the coldest I had ever been in my life, and I'm so thankful that I was working inside at the time. I did that for 4 years, and I was trying to go to Japan, and I saw there was an opening in Hawaii. I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to get Hawaii. So I put that on my dream sheet, and 3 months later, I got a phone call saying, you're going to Hawaii.
Nice.
Never in a million years did I think that was going to happen. So I spent the next 4 years working on the flight line on jets at Hickam Air Force Base. I did that 4 years, like I said. I came back to Florida for a year and a half at Tyndall Air Force Base, worked fighter jets, F-15s. And then it was at that point where I cross-trained and became a special agent with the OSI.
All right. Okay, good. And you were still a part of the Air Force when you joined OSI? That was just a branch of the Air Force.
Yeah, no, it's still part of the Air Force. I was a staff sergeant at the time. It's part of the Air Force, but a little bit on the side because we don't wear uniforms. We wear suits to work every day. There's no rank. Everyone, yeah. So everyone inside of OSI, we know each other's rank. We know where we were, but outside of the office, you're just special agent wearing the suit every day, and you have the same amount of respect as your boss or the brand new agent that comes in on day one.
Oh, nice. That got to be exciting, man. I used to go to the movies when I was little to go to James Bond movies and stuff like that, sneak in. And he was like my hero. When I grew up, I wanted to be a spy. You know how kids are.
No, I understand. I understand. It was exciting. In the beginning, it was it was challenging the whole time. I'll say that. And I was that guy my first week. Basically, I'm just doing paperwork, getting in process. And they tell me, hey, you're going to be on call this weekend. So here's the phone, take the car home, and nothing's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Saturday morning, I get a phone call. I got a death investigation. My first week on the job, 3 hours later, I'm in an autopsy, and I don't know what in the world I'm doing. I'm just standing there wishing I was anywhere else in the world except in that autopsy room.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that was my first week on the job.
Wow. So they got you hit the ground running.
Yeah, stumbling and running.
I think it's swim. I know the situation. Not quite the same as you, but we got to hit the ground running. That's just what's expected.
Right.
That was good, man. That's good. So let's talk about your experience in in military intelligence. What did that comprise of, especially on the counter? What is it? Counter surveillance?
Counterintelligence.
Counterintelligence?
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for correcting me. This is where I'm missing Ernest now.
Yeah, no problem. So basically, it's in counterintelligence, we're trying to make sure that our people are protected. Whether we're talking to people, making sure that they're not saying things that they shouldn't say. If they have a top secret clearance or if they're working on certain special projects, it could be the next fighter jet. It could be the next bomber that's in development, and they have access to all this information. We're just making sure that they know how to protect that information. And if they are ever encounter people who are coming to them trying to get information from them, that they know who to bring that information back to, which would be us, so that then we could go and handle the situation. And also, there's a lot more that goes into that, especially if you're overseas. There's counterterrorism, there's protective services, where when we're overseas, we're trying to make sure that our people are safe. So if we have a group of people, for instance, they could be in a certain country training their military how to fly those planes or how to maintain those aircraft. Well, while they're doing that, the bad guys could be watching them and could be targeting them. So then in our job, we're going to be a couple of layers behind that to try to detect the surveillance against our own people and then if we do detect it, try our best to mitigate it to keep something from happening.
Oh man, that's cool. Do you wear you get what is it? The white jacket with the bow tie, and
Oh no,
you know.
no,
You're not Bond, but you're the real deal.
I don't do bow ties.
That's cool. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So it's explained to me. I've always wondered what counterintelligence is. I always thought that counterintelligence was when you flip the agent of, a foreign agent.
Uh-huh.
All right. So he's basically working for two sides.
Yeah. Well, that would be what we call counterespionage.
Ah, okay.
Right. So when you got someone pretending to be, an agent of a foreign government or a foreign intelligence service, but they're actually working for you, that would be counterespionage. Counterintelligence are the activities that we do to keep people from gaining our secrets and to keep our people safe while they're conducting their operation.
Okay, so basically a risk mitigation type activity.
Right.
You identify the risk and then you just go in and then try to minimize it.
Right.
Or remove it.
Right.
It never, okay. Right. As a project manager, I've done a lot of that.
Yeah.
That's part of my deliverables. It's
yeah.
risk mitigation.
Exactly. And overseas, there's a lot of developing contacts, and some people call them informants in the criminal investigation world. And especially like if you're in different countries around the world, you could be those contacts could be local military contacts. It could be police. It could be other people that work in the embassy, or it could be local village chiefs. It could be people that work at the nightclubs or restaurants. It could be people that work at the hotels. It's anyone who's going to give you critical threat information because they're in a position to see something that you might not see. So, yeah.
Okay. It's just like, and I'm going to just talk about this. I don't expect you to respond in any kind of way, but it's just like, going into Iran, not doing any proper due diligence. I think that's the word I'm looking for here. And not recognizing, I know y'all guys do what they call, what you call these modules that you do, where you try to simulate a situation that you may encounter.
Right.
Game, what is it? Game, war games. All right. Now, I was thinking about Iran. If you plan to fight them, you're always going to look at the worst case scenario. So to me, the Strait of Hormuz should have been something that was, mitigated, the risk, because that was always there. That's why a lot of presidents, from my understanding, they didn't want to go into Iran, because of the risk.
Yeah.
All right. And we have a situation now where we went into Iran and taking into consideration the Strait of Hormuz. So I know you may or may not be able to answer or give me what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You see me probing a little bit there.
Yeah. Well, I can say this. I guarantee you that the military chiefs, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all branches of the service, they have plans for that. Whether those plans were followed by the politicians who make the final decision or not, I can't speak to it. But I guarantee you there were military plans in place of how to mitigate, what we're looking at now, with the strait being blocked, the blockades coming in, the countries having to pay the Iranian government just to get through. And then if we did attack that country, what would happen throughout the strait? I'm fairly certain that there were plans, and a lot of smart people understood exactly what would happen if that took place. What I can't say is whether or not those people were listened to.
Yeah. I would think so too. I mean, even that in my role as a project manager, program manager, implementing projects, initially you gotta, one of the requirements is that you have a risk analysis.
Yeah.
And a risk mitigation plan. If this happened, what should we do? I mean, I'm speaking to the choir when I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to the folks that follow me. For some of them that don't realize that these things are done. They're practice scenarios.
Yeah.
Practice different scenarios.
And like you said, that question probably stood before several presidents before where we are now. And they all determined not to take that action for whatever reason. So the information, I'm sure it gets updated, but, I'm not in the room when it happens, what's in those discussions. And for political reasons, sometimes the best advice may or may not be followed.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So your job is just to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And, just do your job, regardless of who's there or who's in power. I mean, you're a soldier. So
Right.
follow orders, which are, that's the way it is, regardless of who's in the office and the administration. Okay. Now let's talk about global operations and geopolitical issues because apparently you're ported over Devin. Devin is you, basically you, isn't it?
He is based off of me, yes.
Yeah. So, hey, folks, y'all got to pick this book up, man. This stuff is really exciting. It's exciting to me. As a little boy, like I said earlier, I wanted to grow up to be somewhat like you. You know what I mean? but more on recruiting out in the field and all that kind of stuff. But then going to an autopsy and stuff, that's cool, man. That's cool. But anyway, as I was saying, what does, global operations and geopolitical issues in fiction, what explain that to me?
Well,
that's one of the things I picked up from your press kit.
Yeah. So that more kind of takes place with the new book that just came out 3 weeks ago, which is part 2 entitled The Raven Shadow. In the first book, I wanted to tell more of a background situation, who the main character Devin is, through his recruitment into OSI. And I'm creating a whole world that most people don't understand, because a lot of people outside of the military never even heard of OSI, the Office of Special Investigations. Right. And the best way I can explain it for those who haven't heard of it, if you think of the television show NCIS, the Navy Criminal Investigative Service, it is the Air Force version of that, but is in real life.
Oh, okay. Now I can relate a little bit more.
Right.
I'm a big fan of NCIS.
Yeah. And so
okay.
in the first book, I wanted to tell the origin story of how this person gets recruited into that position, the things that he had to leave behind, the struggles that he had early on. And, even though he wanted to be the best agent that he could, he was constantly making mistakes. And those mistakes, one by one would start catching up to him. And with all the bad things were starting to happen in his life, trying to balance the stresses of being a special agent, of being at that time a criminal investigator who was looking into human trafficking, sexual assaults, drug investigations, also balancing the stress from his personal life, because a lot of us, especially our females in our Black community, don't want anything to do with law enforcement. And so, kind of like you growing up, he looked up to that. That's kind of what he wanted to do. That's what he wanted to be. And when the opportunity presents itself, the person that he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life with, his fiance, tells him straight to his face, I want nothing to do with it. So you got to choose me, or you got to choose your career. And so early on in the first book, he's got to make this decision. And that decision haunts him pretty much throughout the series. Not just the first book, but that decision, it keeps coming back to him. And when we get towards the end of the first book, when all these bad things have happened to him, he's facing so much tragedy in his life, he realizes that all these bad things happened from the first day I picked up this badge. A lot of people that I thought were my friends turned their back on me for no other reason than I have a badge. He goes out and tries to meet people just to, try to, develop his contacts, doesn't know that the people that he's meeting are actually the bad guys that are involved in this human trafficking ring. So they know who he is. He has no idea who they are. And now he and his team become the prey. The predators become the prey. The hunters become the hunted. And so he's got to figure his way through this mess. And so that's kind of the story I wanted to tell with the first book. But as we get to the second book, which still kind of follows my career, and these are fictional stories, but a lot of true events are within the stories. This is when we get to your question, the geopolitical aspect of it, because I wanted to present new characters in the second story that could be even more powerful than the main character, Devin. Yeah, and so in this story, we're looking at 3 characters in particular. 2 are African warlords, and 1 is a Nigerian intelligence agent. She's a female. Her name is Khadija. And I wanted to bring in some things that I saw as I was traveling in Africa. But at the time when I was an agent, I traveled to, I think, 9 countries. And I saw, people that sometimes looked like me, sometimes they didn't look like me. Sometimes
This in Nigeria?
the story here takes place in Nigeria. In real life, the part of the book that happened for real, I was deployed to Burkina Faso, and there was that
Ouagadougou?
Ouagadougou, yes, sir.
Yeah, I was supposed to go there.
Really?
Yeah, I had a gold business back in the 80s. I was mining gold on the Western Africa.
Okay.
Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Abidjan. Did I go to Abidjan? Yeah, but primarily Guinea, Abidjan, Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia.
Okay.
That's where I used to do my transaction. But I actually mined gold in Sierra Leone, West Africa. Up in the jungles, up in the bush.
So were you connected at all to that movie, Blood Diamond?
No, this is probably before. This is like the 80s. I spent like 9 years in Sierra Leone, Liberia. I spent a lot of time on the continent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I wanted to retire there, but then the Civil War and all that kind of stuff.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, so that was my first time going to Africa. I was really looking forward to it. And I think I hit some different countries there. I was Cameroon and Ethiopia, Kenya, Rwanda, Congo.
Oh, you're probably on the east. They were the east coast.
Yeah, started on the west, went more central, came out to Kenya, up to Djibouti on the east coast, and then kind of worked my way back around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, did you fly or did you do it by road?
We were flying. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you? I know when I first went to Africa, I think it's 1980. My wife is from Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yeah. I met her a long time ago. Well, I don't want to go how long, but we've been married a while.
Yes.
Anyway, I had the opportunity to go, and then I said, man, I should get into import-export. I mean, it got to be pretty easy. So I had a choice between diamonds and gold. Mm-hmm. And I chose the gold route. Diamonds, I just really can't, gold is weight and purity. Yeah. Diamonds, I mean, I just couldn't see, buying diamonds. I wasn't a diamond guy.
Yeah,
that wasn't for me. But yeah, but another thing you mentioned too that caught my attention was the fact that you wanted to go to Tokyo. I spent a lot of time in Tokyo.
Really?
Yeah, doing implementations, software implementations.
Okay.
Global. Yeah, I was a global project manager and a global business analyst.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I put some out of road. Yeah, road warrior as you.
Yeah. I ended up flying in and out of Tokyo a few times, but I spent a little bit of time, a little bit south down in Okinawa.
Oh yeah. I never been there.
Okay.
Tokyo. I went to a suburb. Actually, I didn't go to anywhere, to visit any places like Kyoto, some of the Mount Fuji area and stuff like that. I never did. But I did go to Roppongi, Shinjuku. Roppongi is where all the foreigners go.
Okay.
That's where they go. You got the steakhouses, you got the clubs and all that kind of stuff. And, a lot of people would come. A lot of women would come there to meet foreigners. They had a Hard Rock Cafe, and that was the place to go on a Friday night, man.
Be careful, you smile a little bit too hard.
Gotta edit this. Oh man. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to what we were talking about, she didn't get me off track, but I did well, I didn't go to Korea. I know I had a friend that I worked with at Deutsche Tokyo branch in technology. And he used to go there to go on vacation. That's amazing.
Mm.
You leave Tokyo to go to Korea to meet the Korean girls. The guys in Korea go to Tokyo to meet the Tokyo girls. It's just it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't even like each other. That's the thing.
That's what
historically speaking.
I picked up on that.
Yeah, okay. How did you pick up on it? What indicator did you have for you to make that conclusion?
Just being over there, hearing people talking, and mostly I kind of picked up on it not being there, just watching movies. Really,
Well,
just picking up on how they speak about each other in the movies in some ways I would have never known.
yeah, but historically they always had some animosity through history, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, I digress. Let me get back to the book, and let's keep it moving. We want to talk briefly about just in thrillers, cultural tensions, and international operations. You know, I didn't realize I had these topics in your press release.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I went out and I did these up my questions.
Okay.
That I sent to you. Not realize that I had some, but then again, mine are more granular. Right now, you spent 21 years in the Air Force, moving from jet engine specialist, blah blah blah. And Derrick Jackson, the Shadow book is based on your life, the Raven Shadow, rather. And you got both books out now, and as I said, I'm gonna put those in the links. But I want to turn it back over to you so you can tell us some of the things that maybe you have experienced that we've only watched in movies or read in books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you share anything? I know that
yeah.
with the autopsy on the first
Yeah.
day of work, that had to be something. How did you get sick or?
I didn't get sick. I just did a whole lot of wishing I could just make it through. And that was the first weekend. And then the rest of the first year, I was on probation like everyone else, just struggling, because it was a new job. I was so used to coming home covered in jet fuel and hydraulic fluid every day. Now I'm wearing suits to work every day. And no matter where I go, people look at me because I have that gold badge in my pocket as though I have all the answers. And these are senior, military people, 20, 30 years. And I walk in the door and I've had the badge for 2 weeks. And they're asking me, how do we fix this problem? And so you have to, like you said earlier, sink or swim. You have to learn very fast. And I think what a lot of people probably get wrong in the movies when it comes to these types of stories is that it's way more grounded than you would think. I guess, when you look at even the book cover, Shadow One, you see black law enforcement, black federal agents. And you can't help but to think about the movie Bad Boys. Because in my stories, the main characters are African American. They're not all African American, but the main characters are. So you can't help but to make that comparison to Bad Boys. And the difference between Shadow One and Bad Boys is that Shadow One is grounded. Shadow One is the first book is about 65% based on the truth. And Bad Boys,
I'm going to buy it. I wanted to buy it before our interview, but it's just too short of a window.
Yeah, I understand. And Bad Boys is not grounded. I like the movies, but it's just a whole bunch of stuff that would never ever happen. And so when I wrote the first book and the second book, as a matter of fact, I had a conversation this morning with someone who had just finished reading the second book, and I guess some of the best feedback that I get is they can't tell which part of it is true and which part is fiction, because so much of it is fiction. And I really took my time to kind of intertwine, the things that did happen with some things that could have happened, and then just mixed it all up together to make a big soup of, action, heartbreak, and, kind of a Rocky story, a person that just takes all the punches and then has to find a way to pull himself back up.
Wow. I'm definitely going to get it. And folks, don't forget, Shadow One. But anyway, Shadow One. I want folks, y'all guys go out and buy the first volume. And it's like he got 2 out there now of Shadow One. And as he said, it's based on some of his experiences. All right. And I'm anxious to get that book right now. Matter of fact, when I go out this evening, I'm definitely going to buy that book.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If anyone that doesn't have time, busy schedule, to sit down and just enjoy reading like you would want to, the audiobook came out last week for the second book. And
audiobook out? I got it.
Yeah, both books have audiobook. I have the same narrator from the first book came to the second, but I brought in a second narrator for the second book because I wanted someone who would have a natural African accent who could narrate those parts and make you feel like you're actually in a terrorist camp, in northern Nigeria. because I didn't want someone who is like me. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. If I did it, you could tell my accent was fake. So I wanted to get someone who was going to bring that story to life.
Now, Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
I had some bad experiences in Nigeria.
Did you?
I don't like Nigeria. I mean, but I'm only taking a small sample because I had to transit in Lagos at one time. All right, on the way to London. So I was coming from Guinea. I flew down to Lagos, Nigeria. Had to change planes for London, but they canceled my flight for some reason. And I'm in the transit lounge, so the airline, I got stopped by the immigration. So the guy comes up to me and said, "You don't have a visa." I said, "They canceled the flight. How am I have a visa if they canceled the flight?" He said, "Well, you got to have a visa. Otherwise you can't come out." So then he said, "By the way, come with me." I knew right then, come with me. They're taking me to the room, right? They take me to the room, and I'm sitting down on like a stool, all right? And they're looking at me and say, "Okay, we see that you're a businessman, but we don't believe you. We think Interpol's looking for you."
Wow.
All right? There's something not right with you. Yeah, I just want to share that with you.
No, yeah, you're right. That's not just in Nigeria, though. Unfortunately, it's in a lot of places on the continent where those shakedowns happen. And, being as you mentioned that, I wrote about one of those in the book. And the second one, The Raven Shadow, the main character, Devin, is with the Nigerian intelligence agent, Khadija. And they're traveling down the road at nighttime. They get pulled over at this supposed checkpoint. But instead of it being the police, it's Boko Haram. It's Boko Haram.
That group that kidnaps everybody.
That kidnaps the little girls and takes the little boys and makes them soldiers. And so I won't tell you what happened, but it's a very tense moment. And so one of the African warlords that I was telling you about early on is closely connected to Boko Haram. And so an American Air Force plane crashes, and there's a survivor. And one of the warlords, who is connected with Boko Haram, wants to kill the American. He's African American, wants to kill him on TV, send the tapes into the news, just like Al Qaeda used to do back in the day. That's what he wants to do. And the other person is saying, "Hold on, let's take our time and figure this out, because if we make the wrong decision, the American military is going to come in here and take over, and we're going to become the next Afghanistan." And so while they're feuding, our main character, Special Agent Devin, finds himself trying to find out where this downed airman is. And the only person that can help him is Khadija, the Nigerian intelligence agent.
Caddy.
That's exactly what her name is. And they're not getting along at the time because they had like a romance early on in the story that kind of went sideways for one reason or another. And now she's looking at me like, "Why in the world would I help you? I didn't forget what you did, but now you want my help." But it turns out that she has a lot of secrets of her own. And so as the story goes on, who you think is the bad person may not be the bad person.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. Did you spend any time in the bush? Did you go up to those very remote areas? Did your job call for that?
In some places, not just in Africa. We were all over the place. So after I left Korea, I had the choice of assignments because I didn't want to go to Korea. So they said, okay, because we made you go to Korea, you can pick your next assignment. And I was trying to figure out where to go. And my chief called me and said, "Hey, we're building a brand new counterintelligence team at AFSOC, which is Air Force Special Operations Command. And all they're going to do is counterintelligence embedded with those special operations units." And so that was my assignment. We would figure out where they were planning on going. And we would go in advance, usually myself, maybe one other agent. And we would conduct threat assessments, where the safest routes to travel. And a lot of times, sometimes we could be in a major city. And then sometimes we weren't in major cities. We're out in the boonies, in the woods, like you would say. And we're trying to figure out if our people come here, how would they get from point A to point B? First of all, where is point A? Which are the safe places for them to stay? Because, a lot of these places, They're depending on that information from us. So we figure out where should they stay. If they do stay at one of these 3 places, how do they get from here to this location? How do they get from here to the embassy? What are the emergency routes back to the hotel? And while we're building those routes, we're meeting people. Okay, if they come, this is a person they can talk to, developing those contacts. We go back and present all that threat information to the people who are going to be actually deploying in that mission. And depending on the location and how severe the threat was, we may actually go back with them during that mission. So while they're doing what they are trying to do, we're a couple layers back, watching their back to see if anyone is watching them to potentially target them. And if they are, then our job was to go in and as best as possible mitigate the threat.
Wow. I was going to ask you, will you carry a gun? Did you carry a gun?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That's a stupid question, but that's just me. That's just me, man.
No, that's a good question. I would tell you this. I kind of think you read the book already. Because your questions are falling right in line with the book. You asked if I carried a gun. There's a part in the second book where Devin was not supposed to have his gun. But he was like, because he had to go to Bogota, Colombia. And he had been there before. He was like, there's no way I can go down here and do what I'm supposed to do without being armed. He knows the situation, and he was told not to take his weapon with him. And he took his weapon with him. and then some things unfolded, and, it got kind of squirrely. It gets a little bit squirrely.
Folks, y'all hear that? I mean, some stuff in there. There's some stuff in those books that, get based on reality. Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick it up. No doubt.
Appreciate it.
And I have an account for audio books. What is that?
Audible?
That company.
Audible?
Yeah, I have Audible. Yes, I have Audible. But the only thing is, I was thinking about canceling it. I got some credits in there.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about canceling because every time I try to listen to an audiobook, I fall asleep. So, I'm used to reading,
Yeah, I don't think you're going to fall asleep on this one.
No, definitely not, because I'm talking to the man right here, so I'm definitely not going to do that. Yeah. But anyway, Derrick, is there anything that you want to share with the audience? We're so fortunate to have you. That you think would be important, for the younger generation and, the people that may be considering a career of service?
I can't tell anybody what to do. The times when I joined the Air Force are not the times that we see today. When I joined the Air Force, it was because I wanted to be in the military. I needed something to do. I needed a way to pull myself up by my own bootstraps. And the Air Force gave me that opportunity. Was it easy? Absolutely not. There were days I wish I didn't do it. But when it was all over, it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And I can't speak. I know your partner was from the Army, and there's a lot of great things in the Army as well.
Yeah, Marines. Yeah,
Marines.
Yeah.
A lot of great things in the Marines. But from my experience, if you're thinking of that, from being able to get away from home, to see the world, to grow up. I grew up in the Air Force. I saw things I never thought I'd see. I saw places I never thought I'd go to. And once I did that, I realized, wait a second, I enjoyed being a jet mechanic. I enjoyed working on airplanes. But then I saw so many other opportunities that were before me that I would have never seen. And so seeing people, my age, people that look like me, succeeding in those positions, in those career fields, gave me the desire to want to do more for myself. And so if you're in a position where, you're a little bit stagnant, the military may not be for you, but the military may be for you. I just think you should think of it as an option. It may be your best option. It may not be, but I think it should always be an option. Look into it. Talk to someone who has that experience. Their experience is going to be, different from the second person you talk to. But, if you think your life is a little bit stagnant, just don't stop looking. Follow your heart into whatever it is that you think you want to do.
Our podcast is available on all major streaming services. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and many, many others. So wherever you get your podcasts, you can find this podcast. You're actually listening to it now. You're right where you want to be.